9.3 billion transferred in a mere 4 months. No, that's not an exaggerated claim from a Hollywood heist film. That's the real amount of money that Kyrgyzstan's ruble-backed stablecoin, known as A7A5, has allegedly processed in record time. Sounds unbelievable, right? But it gets even more intriguing when we realize that this digital asset, associated with the Russian ruble, maintains a humble market capitalization of just 156 million. So, what is really going on behind the scenes? And how can such a mismatch of modest capitalization and colossal transaction sums exist in the year 2023? In the next few minutes, we are going to unravel this incredibly tangled web of crypto transactions, suspicious ties to sanctioned entities, and a hint of clandestine global maneuvering. Today we delve deep into the heart of this perplexing scenario. Kyrgyzstan, a relatively small nation with a nominal GDP of about 17.5 billion, somehow launched a ruble-pegged stablecoin that is now stirring intrigue among experts worldwide. We might ask, how big is Kyrgyzstan's own crypto sector compared to astonishing transaction volumes in the realm of 9.3 billion? How does a brand new digital token supposedly outrun what some entire nations handle through their traditional banking channels? And most urgently, does all this activity hint at yet another cunning strategy to evade international sanctions? In this episode, we will explore not only the unimaginable scale of A7A5's transactions, but also the suspicious patterns of token circulation, patterns that appear to concentrate coins among a surprisingly limited set of players. We will shine a light on the rumored involvement of Promsvyazbank, a Russian state-owned bank deeply entangled in the defense sector and heavily sanctioned by several Western institutions. Also, we will examine the possible involvement of big industry names like Binance co-founder Changpeng Zhao, who apparently offered support for this Kyrgyzstan-based initiative. Finally, we will reveal the unsettling possibility that this stablecoin might be fueling the very financial pipelines it was meant, at least publicly, to circumvent. Before we dive straight into the labyrinth of evidence, let's set the stage by looking at the nature of stablecoins themselves. Typically, stablecoins are pegged to a fiat currency, like the dollar, and maintain parity by holding equivalent reserves. A7A5, on the other hand, is tied to the Russian ruble and claims to back every token with ruble reserves. Yet the question is, are these reserves actually stored in a safe, transparent manner, or are they funneled through overshadowed banks with shaky reputations? And above all, are these tokens being used the way stablecoins usually are, namely to facilitate simpler cross-border transactions, or is something far more discreet at play here? Trust me, you will want to keep listening because some answers are more surprising than you might imagine. Legitimate stablecoins, such as those well known in global crypto markets, normally come with thorough audits and a certain level of verified trust from large communities. Investors look for consistent proof that every token truly matches a unit of underlying fiat. However, sources indicate that A7A5's ruble reserves may be kept at Promsvyazbank, a name that resonates strongly in Russian defense circles. You might wonder if that is simply a convenient banking relationship, or if it represents an elaborate strategy by the Russian government to slip around the weight of global sanctions. The potential ramifications for Russia's economy and, indeed, the entire international financial community are huge, especially when a single stablecoin can hypothetically channel unbelievably large sums in a short time frame. Let's take a step back and examine how Kyrgyzstan ventured into launching its own blockchain ecosystem. Under the vision of building something akin to a digital economy, Kyrgyzstan teamed up with Changpeng Zhao, better known in crypto circles as CZ, the co-founder of the behemoth exchange known as Binance. The stated goal was to boost the local crypto space, enabling cross-border transactions and opening up new opportunities. Only a few months later, though, the numbers soared, 9.3 billion. That's bigger than the entire annual GDP of some small countries, all moved through a stablecoin that had quietly arrived on the scene not so long ago. Instead of seeing this as a fleeting technical triumph, critics started asking tough questions. At this point, it is crucial to understand Russia's difficult geopolitical context and how heavy sanctions have recently shaped the country's behavior. Since major Western powers imposed a series of financial sanctions, Russia has been actively searching for methods to dodge these constraints. Cryptocurrencies, which operate on decentralized networks, appear to some as an irresistible loophole, a means to make large-scale money transfers without being tied to conventional channels. So, could it be that Kyrgyzstan's stablecoin is, in reality, the Trojan horse that Russia has introduced into global blockchain markets? Be sure to stick with us as we piece together the puzzle. So far, if you are finding these revelations astonishing, feel free to give a quick nod of support. If you are up for more thorough investigations like this, be sure to leave a like, so we know you are enjoying this deep dive into international crypto intrigues. Now, let's talk about the perplexing discrepancy between the stablecoin's transaction volumes and its actual market capitalization. Put simply, one might expect that if so much money is flowing through a particular token, that token should have a rapidly increasing value, or at least a higher market cap. But in the case of A7A5, that hasn't happened. Even with a declared circulation of around 12 billion tokens, the market cap remains at roughly 156 million, which is quite small when one contemplates the billions in processed transactions. The simplest explanation for such a gap is that the same tokens may be transferring back and forth among a limited set of wallets in what effectively amounts to cyclical trades or repeated transactions, artificially inflating the total transaction volume. Imagine 3 or 4 major addresses that shuffle A7, A5 tokens around. Those transactions appear on the blockchain ledger, but they do not represent genuine widespread use of the stablecoin. Instead, they create an illusion of liquidity and high demand, reinforcing the narrative that A7, A5 is flourishing across Kyrgyzstan and beyond. But does Kyrgyzstan's economy require or even have the capacity to justify $9.3 billion in transaction volume? That's doubtful, considering the entire country's GDP stands at around 17.5 billion. So, either Kyrgyzstan suddenly became a crypto powerhouse overnight, or an external force, possibly the Russian state itself, is behind these repeated transactions. Let's explore the behind-the-scenes players. Grinex, an exchange that rose from the ashes of Garantex, an infamous platform shut down by US and EU authorities, is one of the hubs for A7A5 trading. Garantex had a known reputation for hosting questionable transactions, including those related to fraud, illicit markets, or money laundering. Now that it has been replaced by Grinex, we see that A7A5 has found a new home, with a significant portion of its trading volume happening there. Is Grinex truly a fresh start, or is it simply Garantex rebranded to slip under regulators' radars? The strong suspicion is that sanctioned Russian entities might be relying on these gray zone exchanges and newly minted stablecoins to move large sums of money around the world without leaving the typical financial paper trail. Indeed, some experts in blockchain data analysis have pointed out that Russian officials have openly considered stablecoins as a means of bypassing Western-imposed constraints. By using a structure that sits partially inside a sanctioned Russian bank and partially inside a newly minted stablecoin pegged to a vulnerable national currency, they might have crafted a digital corridor for substantial cross-border flows. Furthermore, Promsvyazbank, the suspected custodian of these ruble reserves, happens to be a Russian bank that plays a critical role in military financing and arms-related transactions. If you think about it, a bank deeply steeped in defense sector dealings is possibly well-versed in clandestine financial operations that must slip under external scrutiny. So, by bridging the ruble with a stablecoin, the bigger scheme could allow them to pass through layers of crypto pseudonymity. It's a strategy that might make tracking the final destinations of these funds extremely challenging for regulators. At best, we are looking at an experiment to create a second economic track for sanctioned entities. At worst, we are witnessing a new era of large-scale sanctions evasion, facilitated by innovative blockchain vehicles. One of the most unsettling angles is that Kyrgyzstan might be a silent partner or a naive participant in a plan orchestrated largely by Russian-backed entities. On paper, Kyrgyzstan's interest in developing its crypto ecosystem is entirely legitimate. Partnering with well-known figures like Changpeng Zhao gives credibility, and launching a stablecoin pegged to the ruble taps into cross-border transactions with a gigantic neighbor. But the concern is whether Kyrgyzstan's regulatory frameworks are robust enough to spot questionable flows of capital or to impose compliance obligations on major players. If the stablecoin's rapid growth is fueled by Russian organizations seeking a financial loophole, Kyrgyzstan could soon find itself under the microscope of global watchdogs. We must also emphasize that stablecoins are not inherently good or bad. They are simply a technology, a conduit for transferring value from one place to another without the friction of traditional banking systems. The risk arises when clandestine strategies exploit that technology under the banner of financial innovation. Torn between forging a modern, blockchain-friendly nation and ensuring compliance with international regulations, Kyrgyzstan might quickly become a test case for how smaller economies adopt or fall under the sway of major powers engaging in crypto maneuvering. Now, let's pivot to the ongoing debate within the crypto industry. Should stablecoin issuers or custodians be compelled to undertake full audits, publish transparent reports, and subject themselves to real-time monitoring? Many policymakers say yes, precisely to forestall potential misuse of stablecoins as an instrument for money laundering or sanctions evasion. In truth, most major stablecoins voluntarily release periodic attestations by reputable auditors. But the situation with A7, A5 remains murky. There is no widely published proof of their reserve holdings or the reliability of their pegged value. Instead, we have a swirl of rumors and unverified claims that Russian state-aligned banks hold the ruble backing. For everyday citizens, the presence of an unregulated or minimally scrutinized stablecoin might pose serious financial risks. If tomorrow the ruble reserves get frozen or confiscated by authorities due to sanction violations, the stablecoin's value could plummet, trapping unwitting crypto traders. And if the stablecoin is really an extension of Russia's state apparatus, then another global crisis, economic or geopolitical, could trigger catastrophic losses for anyone who trusted the digital token. The story, therefore, extends well beyond Kyrgyzstan, connecting ordinary investors around the globe to major geopolitical risk. One can't help but notice the human element in all of this. Many of us turn to cryptocurrencies because we crave alternatives to constrained banking systems and want the autonomy to manage our funds without the slow, prying eyes of traditional middlemen. But that same desire for freedom can become its own vulnerability. The more the crypto community embraces stablecoins with questionable transparency, the easier it becomes for major state-backed operations to exploit that trust. Some might argue that the entire international order is at stake when sanctioned nations use stablecoins as a parallel channel to continue large-scale financial activities under the radar. Still, speculation only goes so far. We need more data, more blockchain forensics, more disclosures from the custodians of A7 and A5, and more regulatory clarity from both Kyrgyzstan and the broader international community. Of course, we can guess that neither Promsvyazbank nor certain Russian authorities will kindly volunteer evidence of engaging in possible sanctions evasion. The impetus thus lies on investigative journalists, blockchain analysts, and forward-thinking policymakers to peel back the layers. If you find this deep dive useful so far, you might want to subscribe or follow this channel so you do not miss future breakdowns on global financial controversies and hidden crypto trails. Stay in the loop to get comprehensive coverage of the next big twist in this story as soon as it emerges. Meanwhile, let's follow the money trail a bit further. According to various analytics reports, large sums move from wallets believed to be controlled by Russian nationals or organizations to these new Kyrgyzstan-based addresses, from which the transactions then ricochet into different crypto exchanges. Analysts see unusual patterns. Tokens are minted quickly, pushed around multiple addresses, and frequently land in suspicious or semi-regulated exchanges. Then, the cycle repeats. This strongly suggests that the gargantuan volumes are not the product of wide adoption by Kyrgyz entrepreneurs or regular folks using stablecoins to buy everyday groceries. Rather, it is the digital footprints of mass capital movement that few truly understand. Another piece of the enigma pertains to how the stablecoin's architecture might be set up. Are there safeguards preventing double spend, or the reminting of ruble-backed tokens that outstrip actual ruble holdings? We do not have reliable data. In many stablecoin frameworks, the entity behind the token enforces redemption caps, meaning no more tokens can be issued than the real fiat reserves on hand. Are these conditions in place here, or is the system built to churn out new tokens on demand, relying on some bank deposit behind closed doors in Russia? Let's hypothetically assume that authorities decide to clamp down. Regulators across the globe could place A7, A5 on blacklists if they suspect it is systematically used to circumvent sanctions. Crypto exchanges with legitimate licensing might be compelled to delist the token to maintain compliance. This would force all transactions into the realm of black market exchanges, fueling an even more opaque environment and further complicating the job of investigative agencies. Rules and oversight could push the stablecoin deeper underground, ironically helping it continue existing far from the regulated spotlight. This cyclical cat-and-mouse dynamic has repeated itself with many banned services in the crypto world. Whether it is ransomware payouts or restricted markets, whenever the authorities push them out of mainstream platforms, they pop up on smaller, more elusive corner exchanges. Kyrgyzstan itself is in a precarious position. It may soon attract significant diplomatic pressures. One could easily imagine Western governments calling on Kyrgyz regulators to rein in the stablecoin if it is proven that these massive transactions are linked to Russia's sanctioned banking system. If Kyrgyzstan refuses or is simply too slow to act, it may face losing some of its financial partnerships. That leads us to wonder, is Kyrgyzstan actually a major crypto player looking to become a new digital frontier? Or is it an unwitting cog in a bigger scheme to help Russia outmaneuver mounting financial restrictions? While we do not have definitive answers, it is fair to say that the scenario is evolving rapidly. There is a saying in the blockchain realm, follow the hashes, meaning if you look closely at transaction IDs and wallet connections, you can unravel the real nature of these flows. But even advanced analytics might not fully tease out the behind-the-scenes deals and handshake agreements, especially when government-linked banks and hush-hush officials are involved. It is also worth zooming out to see how such developments shape the broader crypto space. Stablecoins have been championed for enabling faster, cheaper remittances to underserved regions, including places like Kyrgyzstan. They can reduce the reliance on Western bank wires and keep transfers accessible to everyday people who may not trust or have access to conventional financial institutions. Yet, in the wrong hands, the same technology becomes a near-perfect disguise for complex money laundering schemes and sanction dodging. That duality means regulators will likely intensify calls for mandatory stablecoin legislation, pushing for rigorous background checks on issuers, auditing of reserves, and real-time oversight. For Russians beset by various segments of the global financial system shutting them out, a ruble-pegged stablecoin offers a route to still engage in cross-border trade. While some Russians use crypto for legitimate personal reasons, sending money to family abroad or trying to protect their assets from inflation or bank closures, there is no shortage of unscrupulous groups that rely on the same rails for illicit or semi-illicit financial traffic. With official Russian authorities openly discussing digital currencies as a tool to blunt the impact of sanctions, it is no surprise that experts suspect an arrangement supporting A7-A5 from high-level figures in both Russia and Kyrgyzstan. Ultimately, the story of Kyrgyzstan's A7-A5 stablecoin is a microcosm of all the excitement, hope, mystery, and peril that define the crypto universe today. We see a small nation with big ambitions for technological growth, potentially overshadowed by a neighboring superpower searching for ways to dodge financial constraints. Meanwhile, billions of dollars swirl around an obscure digital token that on paper has only a fraction of that value in market capitalization, and behind it all lurks a bank with ties to the defense sector of a sanctioned government. If that doesn't sound like material for a global thriller, I don't know what does. So, if you have stayed with us up to this point, bravo. You now have a more detailed understanding of how certain digital tools can be manipulated to serve not just entrepreneurial dreams, but also dark financial objectives. It is a reminder that emerging technologies often walk a tightrope between promising benefits for countless people and providing cover for stealthy, large-scale abuses. If you are excited to learn more about how the worlds of finance, technology, and geopolitics collide, then definitely stick around. Hit that subscribe button if you want to stay in the know as we keep unearthing more shocking developments. What will happen next? Will Kyrgyzstan clamp down on suspicious transactions within its borders once investigators turn up the heat? Will major international powers demand that stablecoins tied to the ruble be banned from all mainstream exchanges? Or will a new wave of stablecoins arise in different countries, each with its own priorities and alignment, further fragmenting the global financial landscape? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. The A7-A5 stablecoin fiasco is a clarion call that the lines separating sanctioned economies from mainstream financial frameworks have become porous in the digital era. Whether that is a good or bad thing might depend on who you ask and what stake they have in the outcome. For the everyday user, it is yet another cautionary tale about trusting brand new platforms with high-flying ambitions. especially when the real agenda might lie in the murky shadows of global power plays. And there you have it, the riveting tale of Kyrgyzstan's surging stablecoin, $9.3 billion worth of transactions, a potential ties to Russian defense interests, and the unstoppable momentum of cryptocurrency technology, both amazing and alarming all at once.